Welcome to the Non-Woke Coach podcast, the show that celebrates success without the woke. Each episode features successful people who have embraced their true nature as free, independent, exceptional beings with the capacity for well-being, rather than accepting the victimhood mindset of the woke agenda. I'm your host, Ellen McCarthy, and I'm glad you've tuned into this episode. I'm thrilled to be joined today by wife and mother, entrepreneur, singer, speaker, dreamcaster, and a woman who shares my patriotic values and passion for helping women succeed. Angie Lentz is the co-founder of Mason Grow Farm that offers a myriad of products for everyone in the family, including clean skincare, apothecary and wellness, puppy, baby, home decor, plus. Angie, it is so great to have you here with me.
Thank you. It's so good to be here, Ellen. You make me sound way too good there. Way too good. Thank you.
Never way too good. Could you tell us a little bit about your amazing background and how Mason Grove Farm started, the vision, the why behind the company?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for having me. I am super excited to be here and definitely feel that we've got some bonded hearts on so many things. So I'll just share, my entrepreneurial journey is, if I look back, it really started young. My parents, middle class, my dad was in sales. My mother was homemaker slash, she would not call herself an entrepreneur, but she really is. She practices real estate today and loves that. That's where she kind of landed. But when I was a little girl, we were her models for her learning photography. So she found a mentor and decided, I want to learn photography. So there's pictures, Ellen, of me and my sister, Jenny, holding tomatoes in the garden. And we're like, cheese, So, just we were, she had fun making us her little guinea pigs, but it was so fun. But it was I think my first introduction to what going towards your dreams means, and after that she wanted to become a travel agent. She learned, she did, and we went on cheap cruises and so would love that. I've got some real solid, beautiful memories of that. And she doesn't give herself enough credit, but she always says, I wish I was more like you and build these things. I'm like, you opened the doors so that I, as a little girl, could see what was possible of, if you want to do something, you do it and don't wait anybody to give you that permission. So that was me early on. And then singing really became my love. And my aunt, this is going to date me, but as a 10, 11-year-old little girl, I got a tape and started singing in our little Southern Baptist church in our little town of Bear, Delaware, actually, and just found this love of music. Then studied opera in college, and my husband and I don't think I ever told you that. Yep, studied opera, music degree at the University of Delaware. And we childhood sweethearts. So Scott and I we grew up in the same little church, and families. Pretty much half the church was my family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. And we met each other in the church. He was like just this little pesky little brother of the older sister that I really wanted to be like, but he was always there, And then one day I realized, I can't pass up a good fella here. And he says, I won you over finally. So, and this is so funny. I remember sitting in youth group, and you guys who grew up in the church and the youth group, that's usually sometimes where you kind of like have your first crushes and stuff. And I remember telling my cousin, who's his best friend, yeah, tell Scott I'll give him a try. I'm like, how teenage arrogance is that, Like, I'm so embarrassed to even share that story with y'all. But yeah, we dated puppy love, whatever, then in high school. And then when I graduated the U of D, I took a break right before senior year to go and sing at Disney. Got an opportunity to sing with the Voices of Liberty. If you've been to Epcot, that when you go to America, it's chill bump creating. It's like you go in and there's this rotunda that reverberates 8 voices of a cappella jazz harmonies, and it is all Americana music. So back home again in Indiana, and the Star Spangled Banner. And if you can envision, if you've not ever been there, if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. But going in, you come in from a hot day, and you sit on that cool rotunda, and you're like in the floor, and it was so neat to people wouldn't even know what to expect. And then all of a sudden you see us come out, right? And it's 4 men, 4 women. We come out in our George Washington era dress. I had the cape that goes from the bottom of the neck down to the floor. And Disney makes you like we had to be legit. This is going back 20 years ago. You had to have your bloomers, and everything had to be full on era, right? The classic era, down to your toes, and our boots and things. And so, but we'll come out and we start singing, the Star Spangled Banner, and then all of a sudden, everyone's looking at each other, and they're like, what's going on? What's going on? And then all of a sudden, it sounds like more voices, right? And then the second team would come from the balcony, walking forward in their beautiful garb and singing the song. So now you have 16 voices reverberating in this beautiful echo chamber of American patriotism, and it just brings, I mean, men crying, and, women just, they all get to their feet, and the little kids are like, wow. I'll never forget it. Like, just the most wonderful experience of my musical career. And so that was a wonderful experience. Disney looks a little different today, I will sadly say. Took my kids back to see them sing, and they're still there singing, but they don't wear the garb anymore. And it's kind of
No,
sad.
no.
Yeah,
Is that the Hall of Presidents?
yeah,
Kind
they
of.
have the Hall of Presidents, and then in the rotunda we would come out and sing.
Oh, I have a
And
story about the Hall of
okay,
Presidents.
tell this, tell
It's
this.
so funny because I just wrote my blog post for tomorrow, and I was
Okay.
talking about Disney going woke and how it wasn't. And
Yes, it was
in
not.
we went in 2008. I had my sons, they were 4 and 9 at the time, so they were young. And the whole trip was so magical. And we walk into the Hall of Presidents, and an usher comes up and tells us, we're the first family of America for the day. And they take us to this VIP seat, and we get to
Oh,
watch the show. And I'm getting chill bumps just talking about it to you and thinking about what you said about your experience there. It's just just amazing. We were talking before we started recording about how there's so many parallels here. It's just I love it. I just love it.
yes, no, I love that. And like I was excited to show my kids, so we
Yeah.
ran across the park to make sure we caught their last set. And I walked in and just saw red and blue outfits, and I was so deflated. And I can't help but think, I don't know this for sure. I didn't speak to anyone, because we had to go to another ride, but I can't help but think those dresses somehow are, um, of an era that might bring memories. I don't know, which is absolutely ridiculous. And it's just these beautiful, uh, and unfortunately, an eraser of what our history was founded on, and that you take the good and the bad, right? And so,
Hmm.
it was just sad, because I was so excited for them to see the outfits and what they
Yeah.
wore back then, and it just took away from the magic. So yeah, I'm
Oh.
with you. hmm
And,
but
but your kids are lucky because they have you and you could tell them what it really was. And
Absolutely. Yes. And I show
it's
them pictures, and they get to see their mom looking, they're like, that's you, mommy? I'm like, and it was so cool too, because we got to share a room, our dressing room, with some of the characters, and some of the princesses and things that would go out, and the way they loved on kids, and the way they, it just was so innocent, and that's the way I like to remember Disney. Really,
yeah.
is when it was, what it should still be today. But so yeah, so did that, and then I sang with a Christian ministry group, and we sang on mission trips and sang across the country, and really grew me. When you're on a bus with college people and a director, and the smoke, and people are like, oh, what, it must be so glamorous. I'm like, no. It's not glamorous. You're on a bumpy bus with a bunch of smelly boys. But it was great. I loved it. And just getting to pray for kids, and we would go and speak to them in schools and camps, and get to just pour into them just family values, and that God loved them. And so I
Yeah.
love that experience. And then we got married after college, came back, got married, graduated, got married, and moved to Nashville, because I knew pretty much right away I didn't want the rat race of New York City. I was thinking, maybe I'll go to Broadway, and I had those dreams, but it wasn't family enough for me. I really thought of myself, I want to sing, but I also want to have a normal family life and not have to be fighting on a subway every day. And I know that's
Yeah.
for some, and that's great. But so we moved to Nashville, and we have loved it. We've been here over 20 years, and got my parents to move here. My in-laws retired here from up north, and gosh, it seems like everybody up north is coming to Nashville. We've got so many people from LA, Chicago, New York are moving here, and we love it. We love it because we know why they're moving here. So that's been really good. But yeah, getting the family to move here and pursuing music. And then when I had my daughter Brooklyn, so, and we named her truly after the city, because my dad's grandparents immigrated here from Norway, and landed in Brooklyn. And so I knew I wanted to name my daughter that. So that's Brooklyn. Well, as soon as I saw her, I was like, my heart changed. Before it was, I want to be a singer, I'm going to be a star, I'm going to make it, I'm going to do the thing. And then you take one look at that baby, at least for me, things changed. And it didn't change my love of music, but it changed my priorities. Like the whole paying your dues and being on the road, and it just definitely changed. And um, God changed my heart, and I love it, because family's everything. And we ended up so we've got our daughter Brooklyn, senior in high school. Gavin is a sophomore. We call him our golden retriever. He lets the other kids just hang all over him. He never complains. He's the one that I tell him once and he just does it. He's the obedient one, and super sweet. He's my fisherman. And then my son Hudson, red curly hair. Can you imagine? Right, like he's sixth grade and has the best one-liners. I told him the other day, Ellen. I said, stop belching. You're never going to get a girlfriend. And he goes, he goes, I don't care. Love is for the weak. It's his one-liner. I'm like, and then let me tell you one more thing. I'll tell you this. And then he's playing a game with his baby sister. Ellen is her name. She's third grade. And she said, Mommy, she goes, Hudson's cheating. And I'm like, Hudson. And he said, well, I was helping her with her card. I said, but you're using it against her now. And he goes, well, and I said, well, Elin, what do you want me to make Hudson do to say sorry? And she goes, well, tell him to let me win. And I said, let her win one, Hudson. And he goes, I can't. She won't taste she won't taste victory. She won't have the taste of victory. And he goes, and I'm a businessman, not a charity person. I was like, you are in sixth grade. Like that is him. So yeah, he keeps us on our toes. But so yeah, we love the family, and we love being home with them, and that really opened my heart up to, okay, I want to sing when I want to sing, but I I want to be home with them. So we started talking about how can we make that happen, because Scott, he's an insurance by trade. Since 18, worked for Nationwide Insurance, and so we owned our own agency. So that was hard. The business ended up owning us. How many of you guys listening can go amen to that? You think, oh, I'm going to be a business owner. It's going to make our dreams come true. And sometimes yes, but sometimes no, right? So what kicked me into entrepreneurship was 2008. We had Gavin, he's our second. So I got two little babies at home, and Scott comes home from owning the insurance agency, and he looks at me, and he's like, I don't know how to, he looked white as a ghost. He said, I don't know how I'm going to tell you this, but I don't know how I'm going to pay our bills. And I can't hardly pay payroll because when nobody's buying houses, right, the market hit,
Mm.
the market tanked. And he said, nobody's buying insurance, house insurance. And I was like, you go to work, I will figure this out. And I'm the type of person, probably a lot of you women out there, you go into survivor mode. I like when it's survivor mode. I live in this dream world until he tells me that. And I'm like, that's it. I'm going to figure this out. And that opened the door to, to figuring it out was how I found being a business owner and entrepreneur. And we got our start in direct selling and direct sales. And so we ended up making a 6-figure income the first 18 months of doing that. And I was like, who has been lying to me? Because I did not know this existed. I did not know that you could do something from your computer or your phone and sell something and make a profit. And just started learning what was. I was always good at sales because I used to be a makeup artist, so I knew I could sell things I believed in. But this whole thing of building a team and training and leadership, right, and personal development, that all came this full circle moment from when I was young and selling makeup to now working a business where you had to if you really wanted to be fruitful, treat it like a business and personally grow. And so did that. And for a decade, worked with one company in particular, got to the top of pretty much the top of that company, and was wonderful. Like my kids don't know what it means to not have us both available to them because of that business. Scott was able to retire after 2 years of me doing that. And it just changed our world and opened this like Narnia to what was possible if you had enough drive and desire. So yeah, that's there's a little bridge to that, but that's basically what opened the door to that. Yeah, yeah.
I think with the drive and the desire, I sense from you an inner confidence, knowing that you are born for more. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be successful. And I work a lot of times with my clients on understanding that and owning it, because I think, and for the audience too, I think as women we oftentimes put ourselves second or third, or
Yes.
I I can't even at one point I couldn't even figure out what it was that made me happy because I was too busy figuring out how to make everybody else happy.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
But once you
Yes.
own it, you know
Mm-hmm.
and
No, it
then
is. And naivety too. Like I
yes,
didn't know what I didn't know,
right,
and that was sort of a good thing because too many. If you look at numbers too much, or if you look at statistics, or if you think about it, let's picture a ball player, right? Like we have friends that have really amazing ball players as sons, and if they would listen to all the advice of, only 1% or 0.5%, or they would never even try to launch the dream of being a pro ball player. So it's almost like it's better for you not to know the unlikely, because you won't put all of your passion in it, because you'll be defeated before you even get started. So that confidence comes a little bit through just put your blinders on
yeah,
and don't and that gives you that confidence because you're not comparing.
exactly. Be the best you that you can be, and don't compare
Yes.
yourself with others. Don't get wrapped
Mm-hmm.
up in what other
Mm-hmm.
people want of
Mm-hmm.
you. My
Mm-hmm.
parents always told me that you can be anything you want to be, just be a good one,
It's good.
you
That's
know?
so good.
Now, many, many years later, that has always stuck with me. And I tell my kids that, and I tell the women that I work with that too.
Well, look
So,
at you. I mean, you've been through corporate America, and most people would have settled there and never pursued anything because it's too hard to jump off a cliff, of the unknown and that leap of faith. But you did it, and so I,
yep,
I love that you have this podcast because it just it ignites dreams in others, and so someone might need to borrow your courage for a little bit to do the same thing, and you're going to be doing that. You're giving this sort of unspoken but spoken permission to like, hey, do it, don't settle. And I love that. I love that. That's
no,
super
thank
cool.
you. Thank you so much. I think I would say don't borrow my courage. Look within and
Mm.
find yours,
Mhm,
because we've all got
mhm,
it.
mhm.
We're all made in the image and likeness of our creator, and
That's right.
he, the source of all that is good.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely. Well, and the Bible says we're made in his image, and it's sort of adopted royally, right? Like, so we're a daughter. We're like, let's just talk to the women right now. Where you're a daughter
yeah,
of the Most High, and you can do anything. You can do anything, and I think that that kind of goes in hand with my dad always would say, you're an Olsen. You can do anything. You're an Olsen. And I
yeah,
heard it so much. I'd be like, oh gosh, Dad, okay, but now I'm so thankful that he would always say that, because it gave this. I didn't even think there was a possibility to fail. It was like,
right,
yeah, I might make some mistakes along the way, but as
yeah,
far as like failing and never, getting anywhere, that never occurred to me. It just was like, of course I will, right? Like, I'll figure it out. Everything is figure outable, right? Like
right,
I've heard people say.
right.
So
No,
yeah, I
exactly.
love that.
And I think
It's in you.
exactly. I think our birthright is positivity and success. And even if you don't believe in God per se, somebody put us here. We got here somehow, and it what got us here is pure positive energy. And if you connect to that, that's really how you get ahead too. So for anybody in the audience who, like me, I'm more spiritual than I am religious, but just connect to, I'd like to say I connect to my creator in positive energy.
Yeah, well, and if you think about it, what man has done to religion, quote, right? It's of course it's going to be imperfect, because we're
We
imperfect
are.
people. But if we look to him, right, the beauty, the love, that agape love, right? That's a love that you can't explain it. It's almost like, I feel like the closest I get to the way God loves us is when you see that newborn baby and you're like consumed with this. I did not know I was going to love you like this, like I thought I would, but you have to experience that. And that's what I imagine, that's what I feel. And so I think that goes hand in hand with what I've pursued in business. Everything for me is, how can I love on people more? How can I help, people like that are like me, and know there's something in you that you're meant to do. Maybe you haven't figured it totally out yet, but it's in there. Because after, I'll just kind of share the rest of the story. So after a decade of doing that one company and singing a little bit and raising a family, I became unfulfilled. All of a sudden I was like, there's something else I'm supposed to do. This is feeling a little bit empty, and materialistic in ways. Sometimes a certain industry can do that. A certain business can be like, where's the heartbeat? What are we doing this for? And I remember literally just in my closet, my messy closet, just cleaning it up. I was like, God, I'm really sorry. This is going to be sounding complaining. I'm not, totally not. But oh, could you bring something else that's going to make me feel the way I used to feel when I was singing and traveling and loving on people and just hearing their stories, and that just led to some consulting, that kind of came up out of that. And Mason Grove Farm was birthed out of. We went through like a phase of heartache, and that heartache and betrayal, really, from people we thought were friends. So just to encourage any of our listeners, if you have went through that, just love them, pray for them, but there's a reason. You're supposed to learn something through that. Which I have, absolutely. I've learned how I will never be as a leader and a business owner. Um, so definitely went through it for one of those reasons. But we started Mason Grove Farm, and I remember when we went through the heartache, and we had friends say to us, "Hey, that's really that's horrible what you guys went through. You're good people. Let us know if you ever do your own thing. We're in. We want to support you." And I remember telling Scott after I heard it a few times, I was like, babe, so and so said if we do our own thing, like, let them know. And he's like, what does that mean? So that's all we needed, though. That was all we needed, was that little speck, that little seed that was planted. And then we took that to paper and, sort of husband wife pillow talk, and what do you think? And, and he's the kite, I'm the kite, he's the string, he says, so which is good. We're a good balance, right? Because we would be absolutely broke if it was all up to me. We were a good duo. But yeah, I said, you know what, I really want to, being many years in the beauty industry and in sales, and I want to create non-toxic skincare. And I said, and then I envisioned, because I love houses and I love decor. How many of you love that? I love it. I love architecture too, and just anything beautiful. And I have my way with Canva. I love it. Canva is my friend. I love to create. I think I could create 200 brands a day just from Canva because I just love it. But yeah, we said we're going to have some pop up markets and do decor, and we said, well, what are we going to call this? And my husband was like, well, you know what, we had our hearts broken on Mason Grove Court, which was our street. And he said, let's have restoration on Mason Grove. We didn't even know farm was going to be a part of it. That happened maybe like a week later or so. I woke up from a dream and I just felt like we're supposed to do this on a farm. And my husband, I woke him up. I said, are you awake? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I said, normally, he'll wake up and he'll like lift one eye and like to see if I'm going to throw the phone at him and to say, I've got 10 more ideas, when you're a serial entrepreneur and a big idea person, I'm like, I know you're awake. I saw you blink. And he's like, oh, okay, how many cups of coffees have you had? And I was like, none yet. But I said, but hear me out, babe. I said, I feel like we're supposed to have I feel like we're supposed to call it Mason Grove Farm. And Scott goes, but we don't have a farm. And I go, but we're gonna. And he's like, okay. And he's thinking chickens and pigs. And I didn't even think that, at all. It was just, I was like, no, I really want to have a place where we can have, family come and play cornhole on the lawn and have a barn for musical things because I love music. And we'll have an inn and the creek with dinners with your feet in the creek, and have a prayer walk, going through the property and cascading oak trees, and I'm like, this, I just see it. I see it. And we'll make the skincare right from the farm. And he's like, okay, babe, well, I'm with you. He's always with me. It's so good. And that's how that started. And so I got my sister-in-law, who's an ER nurse at Vanderbilt. And I said, I need you. And so she came over because she's really good at math and measuring. And then my best friend, Dana, who's good with essential oils. And we started crafting skincare in my kitchen. That's how that really birthed.
That is so terrific. Just you, you. I don't not seem to be. You are the epitome of self empowerment. Listening to what's driving you inside and doing it, and it seems like you expect good things to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
that's so important. I mean, I go back to the almost 40 years I spent working in corporate America, and even in that environment, I was able to make it work for me. We had our first son, and my husband and we figured out how to do it because I wanted to be home with him. I stayed home for 6 months with him, and I wouldn't change that for the world. Sure, it set my career back several years, but at the end of the day, I still wound up in the executive suite with all its good and bad.
Right. But you were able to enjoy that time.
Exactly.
No one will ever get to rocking in their rocking chair if you're blessed enough to make it to my grandmother who's 94 and look back and go, man, I wish I had done one more graph. One, I wish I had went to one more meeting. No, what you're gonna
No.
say is, I really wish I had snuggled my baby just, one more night or one more day.
Yeah.
That's really what is the meaning of life, is our loved ones. And last night we were at the Ryman. I was sharing this with you
Yes.
by text. We were at the Ryman Auditorium, where the church of country music, right? And a dear friend of mine who I used to sing with, who he and his wife have become best friends. Like, it's the people you do life with, right? And I pray all of you have that. And he had a freak accident where a pool filter exploded in July and hit him in the head. send him backwards. It went 20, 30 feet into the neighbor's yard and created a divot. Y'all created a divot. That's how. And come to find out, this is something that has happened before, and it's a manufacturing, it's a flaw, and it needs to get fixed. That's please, if anybody knows anything about this, get it fixed. But he was in a coma for several days, and just us going to the hospital, all of our friends pulling around, holding hands, praying, not knowing what was going to happen, and believing for the best, but just not knowing. And that was the first night that he got up on stage and was back to performing with Amy Grant and Vince Gill, because he does their show every year as a backup singer. And we were like in tears, and I saw him crying, and that we thought that's what life's about, just um, celebrating with loved ones and their triumph, and not stressing about the stuff that really doesn't matter, in the whole scheme of things. And that really is why I solely believe in people doing what lights them up, and don't wait. Don't wait another second. Don't delay. You'll find every excuse to wait till tomorrow to do something, but don't. Just do it. Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Because I am a big procrastinator. And so I constantly have to like pinch myself, like, do it, do it. Starting a podcast, I'm about to do that. It's like, don't wait. I'm like inspired by you, Ellen. I'm like, okay, Ellen's doing it. Let's do this. So let us, inspire each other to do the thing, even if it's scary. That's okay. Do it afraid. Do it, because it's
Exactly.
what matters is what matters.
I agree with you entirely, and I think as we're, I can't believe 30 minutes has gone by so quickly.
I know.
I'll have you back on again soon.
Would
Um,
love that.
you summed it up perfectly. It's just go. I was going to ask you, what do you think as conservative, patriotic women? What's your secret for success? I'm going to ask you anyway because I don't want to. I think what you said resonated with me, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to put in your own words. What is the
Yes,
secret?
well, we started Mason Grove Farm. Yes, it came out of hurt and heartache, but um, the other like real motivator was we saw an attack on family. And there's no better example of God's love than through the family. And I know not everybody comes from a loving family, but if you don't, create one, right? Like your friends can be your family, but that conservative, ideal, family unit where you've got parents that love you, and the values, and love of God, love of country. And so that came out of that. And I think too, they call us the silent majority, right? Like people, we've been called that. And I think I was talking about this with friends that visited and stayed the night from New York. They're from Syracuse-ish area, Rochester area. And they were saying that the more they speak out, and in a loving, kind way, but the more they let people know where they stand, that they are proud to be in America. They are proud of, of our country, and our conservative ways. And the more that they're seeing people come out of the woodwork going, me too. So it's like, when you're not afraid to share that, you realize that there are more of us out there than aren't. And it's giving me, I used to say, oh, I'm not very I don't want to stir the pot, or I'm a people pleaser. I am. I don't want anybody to not like me. But I'll tell you, when something happened in the school system that was really wrong, and woke, we fought back. And I told my husband, I made a comment on our neighborhood thing, and everybody agreed with me, except for like a couple, a couple people. And they were like, and my husband was like, oh my gosh, babe. I'm like, what? I said, my mama bear is coming out, and I can't help it. This is my child. And he goes, yeah, but we've got to see these people at the pool. I said, but that's okay. I said, you know what? I'm proud of that. I took a stand, and you need to be proud of me. And, and he's like Mr. Introvert. He doesn't like to make waves, but by the end of the night, when it really started to kind of unfold and people started coming out of the woodwork going, I'm so glad you said something. We would not have known. And, he was like, man, babe, you'd be good at politics. And I'm like, you can't even handle me posting on Facebook, babe, like in our neighborhood site. But it was like, wow, I have more power in me than I thought,
Yeah.
and I'm just so proud of myself because of that, because I normally would cower and I would not want to be the one that's, got all eyes on me and having people disagree with me and not like me, so I just
I,
say, just speak out because there's more of us than not.
I applaud you, and I agree with you. I have seen, as I began this journey, so many people who are freedom loving, traditional values loving people. And it does my heart good. I think my sons are now 24 and 19. And my husband and I worry about their future. But as I'm seeing more and more of the people in this country and what the you can call it a movement. I just think it's Americans finally banding
Waking up.
together,
Yes.
waking up,
Yes.
standing together.
Ending up.
And it
Mhm.
just gives me such hope. And
It
I'm
should. I want to share this too. And I know we're getting a little long, but my this is so, if you look at our website, if you go to masongrovefarm.com, you'll see a little bit of our story. And this is in honor of the legacy that our grandparents left, both my husband and I. And so his grandparents, his grandfather worked for Ford Motor Company. My grandfather was Chrysler, but before that was in the coal mines. And their farm family. My great grandfather preacher, the other great grandfather owned a mercantile store where everyone in Kentucky knew each other and they helped each other. And you could buy something on credit because your handshake was your word, right? It's a gentleman's, sort of, this is, hey, my word is my bond. And we miss those days. And even though now I sort of just have to read about them, it's nice to know that existed. Not in a perfect world. Nothing was perfect even back then, but there was a respect for your elders. There was a respect for the military. There was a respect and honor of your parents and your grandparents, and what you were saying is, honoring the freedom that someone else died and paid for that price for you. My grandfather was at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed as a 19-year-old, and I just, there's such honor in that when we celebrated that last year in honor of that, them fighting back, right? Like just celebrated their sacrifice. And so, yeah, there needs to be more of that in the world, so.
I agree entirely. And for our audience, you can find Angie's business on it's shopmasongrovefarm.com. Is that right?
Or you can just go to www.masongrovefarm.com.
And you're listed on Public Square, you're on Instagram and Facebook. Did I miss
Yep.
anything?
No, we're about to get on Rumble, I hear. I'm hearing all these new conservative places. I'm like, let's do it. Yeah.
Well, I'm on this podcast is on Rumble, so you'll be on that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well,
And
thank you, Ellen, so much.
thank you. You beat me to it. Thank you so much for taking the time. Let's keep in contact, keep in touch, and I mean it. I do want to have you back on again, and it's been wonderful.
I would love it. Thank you, and thank you for your listeners, and anything I could ever do for them, just reach out.
Thanks, Angie. That's it for this episode of the Non-Woke Coach podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Please follow the show on your favorite podcast listening platform so you don't miss the next episode. While you're at it, please sign up to our email list at linktree/non-woke-coach, where you can also download free success resources and learn more about my private coaching packages. I'm Ellen McCarthy, the Non-Woke Coach, and until next time, keep embracing your true successful nature.